Sumo.
Hi everyone, I'm Crow77, and today we're taking a look at a what would you discard problem. So some of you may have seen this hand earlier in the week. I mentioned a book in the short that I featured it on, and that book was Super Digital Mahjong by Kobayashi Go. If you haven't seen it before, please pause and take a minute to consider what you do in this situation. If you have seen this hand before, and you're one of the people who took this right here into account, congratulations, you get bonus points. I didn't say that in the original video, so going and taking a look at that is a step beyond what a lot of the other people did. I also said that the author presented an option for a discard that I hadn't even considered with this hand. So I wanted to make a little bit longer what would you discard video to go into the options we have for this hand and decide on what I think is the right answer. So my go-to was to discard Chun for the Pinfu options. I saw that a lot of you said the same thing in the comments. It gives us a Ramen shape with a safe tile, which is very typical and close to ideal for this type of hand that's going to go Pinfu. It has a higher value than the options to open too, which is a big plus in my opinion. This early in the game, I'll often want to take slightly riskier lines to get bigger value. The only real downside is that it doesn't allow you to open the hand at all, which given my playstyle isn't a huge difference from the lines I typically take. The next option is to discard one of the Ramen shapes. There isn't a huge difference between which to discard here. The 1-4 is a better weight overall, but the 6-7 can accept red 5s, so I would typically lean towards keeping the 6-7 usually. The main benefit here is that you have a much faster hand on average. You'll still in the turns where people are going to commonly drop honor tiles anyway, so there's a pretty good chance to call it. There's also potential to get more value if you don't need to call it, either on a tenpai or on the Chun draw, with the 9-so weight, or just drawing the Chun yourself. But it doesn't allow many avenues to Mawashi, that is, to play a little bit more defensively while trying to push, if you keep the Chun as your hand as opposed to the Pinfu option, which has the honor tile as a safe tile to discard. There's also a lower guaranteed value on Tenpai, since your worst case is Richi Dora 1 for 2,600 points. So what's the third option? It took me a bit to even really consider the author's point of view here, to be honest, and only one of the commenters on the short brought it up last I checked. What it boils down to, though, is that Kobayashi is trying to minimize the impact of the hand when you specifically draw into the triplet of your pair. This was very counterintuitive to me. If you're assuming you're going to draw into a triplet, why not keep both pairs? But his choice in the book was the 9-so. At this point, I feel like it absorbs the worst of both of the other hands. I think it'll have a lower average score than the Pinfu shape, and a worse shape than discarding the Ramen in general, as well as about the same value with possibly a worse weight than discarding the Ramen, if you end up calling the Chun instead. Let's take a look, though, at this decision versus the Pinfu choice, which is my choice for this hand, that we saw earlier, just to make sure my intuition isn't completely off. I'm going to build a probability tree here, and take a look at where the different options lead. Let's start with dropping the 9-so, as Kobayashi recommended. Now please note, I'm going to heavily simplify this model based on the following assumptions. Let's assume that if you draw into the triplet of your pair, in either case, you're going to end up in Tenpai no matter what. This should benefit Kobayashi's decision, since having the triplet of the red dragon is Yaku over the triplet of the 9-so that we'll see in the other case. We'll also ignore one entire branch of this tree. There's an option that Kobayashi presents in his book, where if you draw a pair of one of your Ryanmen, it creates a perfect Ishanten with the Chun. However, the point difference with this is marginal, at best, because you're still looking specifically to draw the Chun to increase that hand value. Otherwise, you'd probably be taking the Ramen weight anyway. There is the option of calling the red dragon too at this point, but if you're going to do that, if that's your plan for the hand, I feel like it's better to commit much earlier in the hand in general, and to push for that dragon pawn. The marginal value of having a perfect Ishanten pales in comparison to the value lost from missing Pinfu on a Ramen improvement. So with those assumptions, you can draw a Chun, which has about 2 tiles left in the wall, about 11% of the time to improve the hand. This will lead, based on our assumptions, to a 5,200 point hand. With the Ryanmen draw, though, you'll you'll be drawing those a whopping 89% of the time, and you'll be declaring reach on a 2,600 point hand instead. Conversely, if you cut the tune first, you'll have an 11% chance of a 2,600 point hand when drawing the 9-cell, again considering our assumptions, but the 89% becomes a 3,900 point hand instead, significantly higher than Kobayashi's options. This isn't even taking into account things like Uradora, which tends to favor hands right around the 3,900 point mark. You tend to maximize the effect right around the 4th Han here. So where does that leave us? If we run the probabilities versus the point values, again, with our extremely limited probability model, it comes out to an average hand value of 2,886 for Kobayashi's decision, and 3,757 for the Pinfu push. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you which one of those is bigger. After talking with my team about it, I found that modern AI models also reject Kobayashi's theory, opting for one of the other two options, depending on the exact situation. Now, I don't think it's fair to say that Kobayashi's decision was wrong, per se. By today's standards, we may believe it to be, but I feel Kobayashi's style in his answer was based on a much older style, taken from when Mahjong was a slower game. Even if it was only a few years older, Kobayashi started being active in around 2018 in the pro scene. The scene has evolved quite a lot since then. Nowadays, speed trumps just about everything. You don't have the time to be worrying about multi-step improvements to a perfect Ishanten, because on average, by the time you draw tiles to make use of that improvement, your window is already rapidly closing on the hand. As always, thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or just want to chat, I'm reachable on Discord and by email. We have a Discord channel now too for fans of the channel, which you have to be if you're still watching this video. See the link in the description for an invite. I'll see you guys next time.